Hello and welcome back to my channel, The A Word and Me. Today's video is ADHD and me. We'll be focusing on 3 points in this video. So my diagnosis story, my ADHD and some of my techniques that I used to help me deal with the symptoms of ADHD. I hope you enjoy. So my diagnosis story, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 16 and I got diagnosed on the NHS as part of CAMS. So the way that they do it in the NHS is that the first assessment that you have is with an ADHD nurse, and my nurse was called Jenny. A shout out to Jenny, she was brilliant and I loved her, so I want to make known how good she was. And what they do is they put a like this thing on your head which tracks your movement, and you sit at this screen for 20 minutes and shapes come up on the screen and you have to click if the same shape appears twice in a row and it's the same colour. And it's basically, they monitor how many times you get it correct, how many times you get it wrong, and also your movement. And what they do at the end is they plug the results into the computer and they'll have kind of what a sort of normal person, someone that doesn't have ADHD would have, and then see where yours compares. And mine showed I was quite hyperactive and impulsive. And I said, you know, as my mum and the nurse were talking, I said, I'm not impulsive, interrupting them. And they were like, Alana, one of the signs of impulsivity is interrupting people's conversations. And I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough, that's me. And then about 2 weeks later, we met with Jenny, the nurse, the ADHD nurse, the second time, or maybe this was the first time we met her, I can't remember. And it consisted of like a talk between me and her, and then her parents and her. Sorry, my parents and her. And what they do is they just ask you about your life, lots of different questions, your kind of past history, and they combine these conversations with the results from the moving test 2 weeks before, and also with some questionnaires that they asked me to do beforehand, and they got school to do as well. And then what they did after was she spoke to the psychiatrist about the findings and to decide whether or not to make a diagnosis. And they phoned me up 2 weeks later saying you have ADHD, mild to moderate, and it's specifically impulsivity and hyperactivity, I think, because they have always said my attention's been okay, and I kind of would agree with them, to be honest, because I think what impacts me is the hyperactivity and not the attention bit. So the next thing that I want to discuss is my ADHD and me. I'm refilming this section and I still have my cold, which is why I've suddenly gone like really nasally. To be honest, for me, my autism has impacted me a lot more in terms of how I feel and think about myself and perceive myself, and so I just have a greater awareness of it. For me, ADHD was kind of just like piled on the side, so I'm going to refer to my diagnosis letter a bit more in this video than I did in the other one. Kind of one of the things I want to say now about me and ADHD is that actually I found it a lot easier to deal with as a diagnosis, because in ADHD it's, oh, you know, you're just a bit more impulsive, a bit more hyperactive, your attention's a bit poorer, and it's kind of like, okay, you know, oh, it's just like they're on a sugar rush almost. Whereas with autism, it's very much you are different, there's a difference between you and the world and other people, and people might judge you for being odd or something like that. And so yeah, ADHD for me, like, it's always been something I'm really happy to share with people. Yeah, I have ADHD, whereas autism is taking me longer to be more comfortable with. So I feel like my knowledge is lacking a bit here. But anyway, I kind of wanted to start. So this is from my report of when I had ADHD. So yeah, it was
how long, like 2 years ago now, and I would agree with most of these things, but I've got some like additional points. So they kind of look at 3 sections: concentration, impulsivity and hyperactivity. So they focused on what school said, what I said and what my parents said. So this is like kind of how it's impacting me. So it says that I struggle to listen to teachers and to pay attention. I can't complete massive pieces of work at once, and the teachers recognised that I need more time, and so I was put in lower sets so that I would have more time to complete work. Surprisingly, I don't struggle with homework, and I'm very good at organising myself in terms of writing lists and setting aside revision time. That's somewhat true. I'm not as great as I used to be honest. I've got a bit lazy, but I always tend to get work done if it needs to get done, so I guess I don't really have a problem with that. I get bored in exams and exercise loads before, so this was all before I had ADHD meds. I used to break up practice papers into smaller chunks. I don't really do that so much anymore. In exams I can do 25 minutes to half an hour well, and then I would lose it. This is different now because I have meds, I can concentrate for longer. Impulsivity, I shout out in class. Yeah, I still do that in my seminars. I used to get told off a lot for talking in class and distracting others. Shortness of temper, like I'd blow up at the slightest of things. Like if I would be asked to do something, I'd blow up. I hate shopping because it was dull. I struggle with queuing, but I think that's more of an autism thing. Apparently I'm reported to have danger awareness, however she does do things without thinking about them also, so who knows who said that. And then hyperactivity, I like to burn up my energy in the mornings. I like to walk around classrooms when I did. Some teachers put up with it, some didn't. I get bored at the cinema, and I enjoy cooking, running and swimming. So that was kind of from the initial diagnosis, and then I've kind of put some of my own things together as well. Sorry. So the conclusion was I had mild to moderate ADHD, which was focused on impulsivity and hyperactivity. So the way like my impulsivity impacts me is in terms of my actions. So a big thing is impulsive messages. These can be like positive or negative, so if I get annoyed at someone, I like and send really impulsive messages, or if I like a guy or something, I'll, you know, just tell them on the whim sometimes, and it's like, why did I do that? I find concentration hard in lectures and exams, but I think that might be more due to the sitting still rather than the actual like focusing, but my attention is definitely a lot worse than other people's, whether I'm medicated or not. And the problem with lectures is that, you know, they're whenever throughout the day, so you can't always correspond to medication and lectures, which doesn't help. I find it quite hard to sit down for long periods of time, so I constantly get up to break things up. I make loads of silly mistakes. That was one thing that would always come up, kind of mainly during my GCSEs. Well, Alana got this mark, but with all the silly mistakes she made, Alana would have gotten this mark, and there'd be like sometimes like a grades difference. And I'm a lot better at it now that I'm medicated, but that was a huge problem. I talk loads. I love the sound of my own voice, I think. Well, I don't actually, but like, I talk a lot. I once asked one of my flatmates, you know, can you tell I have ADHD? And she goes, one of the signs that you do is you talk loads and you're quite bubbly. And she said for someone that didn't know, they just think you're quite like an energetic person, whereas that's just more the ADHD. Also, once I have an idea to do something, I find that I have to do it. So I remember once I said to my friend Lana, we should sing a version of Red and Black from Les Mis together at uni, and she agreed. And then I was like, that night we'd party, I'm like, let's do it tonight, and she was like, no, I said at uni. And so I had that idea and I was like, we've got to do it now. We don't actually have to do it now. And like small things like that, I'm not very patient as a person. Another one of my difficulties is that I find it really hard to focus on one task. So for example, if someone sends me a video to watch on YouTube, I often have to be doing something else on my phone, like maybe on my iPod, or the same when I'm watching TV. I find it really hard to focus. I might go on my phone, I might do some crochet or knitting, but I like struggle with that like attention span to focus on one thing.
Technique number 1, impulsivity. So as I said before, I'm very impulsive in my messages sending. So this kind of technique focuses on that. One of the big things that helped me was my medication. So when I was on my medication, and a kind of situation would arise where I would send an impulsive message, it kind of taught me to like think and stop before I sent the message. And so by having those skills learned when on medication, when I wasn't on my medication, I kind of had those foundations to think before I sent them, which really helped. Another thing is try talk to someone before you send a message. So if it's like an argument thing or an invitation, talk to someone before, if possible, before you send the message, so they can kind of help you think it through. And the other thing is, if you find yourself getting mad, turn off your phone if what's on the end of the phone is going to make you angry. So like take yourself away from the problem, calm down, and when a few hours have passed, maybe turn back on your phone so you're in a more rational mind to deal with it. They're the kind of 3 things that I would say are the best. Technique number 3 is focusing on school and university work. So anyone with ADHD is pretty much guaranteed to struggle to do their work in a variety of formats. So what I try and do is I rank the work that requires the most concentration. So if in a day I have to do, say, copying out some notes for something, doing some maths for economics, so those are like the 2 tasks that I have to do, I would do the maths first before I do the copying out notes, because the maths requires more thinking, energy and brain time. And then what I'll do is, so I'm on short acting meds, I'll take my meds and I'll do the activity that requires more concentration first when my meds are kind of working better, and then as my meds are wearing off, I change activity to kind of suit the concentration levels I need. I also find that I try and do a lot of my work when I'm on medication, and so I work really intensely for 2 to 3 hours and I don't have that many breaks. So what I'll do is like 3 hours, I'll do like half an hour, have a bit of a break, have a 20-minute break here and there, but then I'll have like an hour off, then I'll do like another 3 hours, and then I'll have the evening off. So it's much more intense because that's my time to focus, rather than doing like long stretches of time where you have lots of breaks in between. Like, I think you just have to be realistic and realise, it is harder to concentrate and kind of amend your routine for that. Because I just find it so frustrating when I'm trying to work and I just can't get anything done, and I've scheduled to do something, I'm like, I can't concentrate, I can't get it done. Then you feel like you've wasted time. So I think it's better just to be more reasonable and manageable. So technique number 3 is silly mistakes. The biggest kind of solution to this is to take my ADHD meds. That really helps. But the second thing I do is checking my work. So if I'm doing a maths paper, for example, I complete the paper, I then go back on, like, you can ask for more paper in an exam, or if I'm just, doing something, I only ever really do this in exams. I don't really do it when I'm just doing normal work because it takes time. So you ask for extra paper and you basically redo the paper, but you kind of start with the questions that are going to be more problematic, and if the answers match up, you're like, bam, okay, that's fine. If they're different, you see if you can spot the problem. If not, do it a third time and go with the answer that matches up, and then basically rewrite it in the correct bit, the correct version, and then cross out all your checking work. I hope that makes sense. For me, I just find if I just look at the problem like, have I done this correctly, I never get anywhere with it. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it really helpful. If you want to share any techniques that you have or ask for anything else, please comment on it, and please, if possible, could you like the video and subscribe to my channel. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Monday at 5 PM. Bye bye. Hi all, this is just a quick add-on for the end of the video. Next week's video I'm going to be answering questions about autism, so if you have any questions that you would like me to ask, could you either message me directly if you know me, or leave them in the comments. Either way, I don't mind, and they can be on anything to my experiences, to what other people think, what my life is like, anything like that that's related to autism. Please ask away and I'll answer them. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions. Bye bye.